Okay, I show you registered as Billy, is it Laura?
Lara.
Lara, okay. Is Billy Lara, teacher, educator, and you will testify on behalf of yourself?
Yes.
That's wonderful, and you'll testify for the bill, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Show you registered as Ben Mackey, Executive Director on behalf of, you're Executive Director, but you're on behalf of Texas Impact Network, and you're testifying for the bill, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you very much. And hi there.
Yes.
Show you registered as Darla Nolan on behalf of your superintendent, and you're on behalf of Academy ISD, and you'll be testifying for the bill. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll let our classroom teacher begin.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Buckley, Vice Chairman Bernal, and honorable members of the committee. I am Billy Lara, and I am testifying for House Bill 2. I am honored to be here to share my experience as a teacher incentive allotment, TIA, designated early childhood educator. I have been an educator for 8 years and currently serve as Dallas's ISD Brookhaven campus, which is a part of their pre-K partnership program. Given my background, I am greatly encouraged to see the provisions in HB2s that support scaling both TIA and pre-K partnerships. Strategies that I've seen firsthand work to serve our students with effective educators and high-quality programming. The teacher incentive allotment has been a transformative experience for me as an educator and for my students. I am proud to have earned the recognized designation because it not only acknowledged my dedication to high-quality teaching, but also reinforces my abilities to make a measurable impact on student outcomes. The state's investment in effective educators through this program enables more Texas students to receive a high-quality education and teachers to receive the recognition and compensation they deserve. For me, TIA honors the hard work I put in daily with my students, as well as the additional work I put in with my colleagues as a mentor teacher and a pre-K team lead to ensure not just the students in my classroom thrive, but the students across campuses will also grow. In this way, the TIA program rewards all aspects of my job, including preparation to lead professional learning communities and present at early childhood conferences, seeing these as valuable contributions to the profession. Based on the student growth outcomes in my classroom and my work performance, I'm proud to share that my rating will increase to exemplary next year. This increased designation further acknowledges and celebrates the joy I feel when pouring into the next generation of pre-K teachers as I grow my own teacher leadership capacity while getting to stay in the classroom, which I love. The expansion of TIA, as outlined in HB2, means that more pre-K teachers like myself will have the opportunity to earn a designation signaling that, yes, we do play a foundational role in our students' educational journey, as more school systems are provided the support necessary to participate in TIA, and additional incentives are given to school systems implementing enhanced systems as we have in Dallas ISD, TIA will continue to have a profound impact on the teaching profession and student outcomes. Personally, I know these supports will translate to an increased number of pre-K teachers being seen, recognized, and valued for their expertise in helping to shape the minds of our youngest learners. As an early childhood educator, I would like to thank this committee for reflecting this understanding through HB2's investment in pre-K. As I mentioned, I teach at a pre-K partnership campus as a part of a unique collaboration where Dallas ISD teachers are placed in Head Starts and independent child care centers. The partnership allows participants to enroll as Dallas ISD students, being instructed in the district's curriculum and receive early intervention services and resources. We currently have 44 partnerships with over 1,000 students being served in a community-based setting of their choosing. The proposals in HB2 provide full-day pre-K funding for high-quality pre-K partnerships. We'll support this work by making partnerships more sustainable, taking into account the unique cost structure of joint programming between a school system and a child care program. This increased investment, in conjunction with the expansion of TIA, will allow more students access to vital, high-quality lessons in literacy, math, language, which are pivotal in providing the building blocks students will need as they progress through their educational journey. Emphasizing and providing the necessary resources for effective instruction will also help address learning gaps before they compound. Take my student Kevin, for example. When he entered my classroom this fall, he knew how to communicate in only one language, yelling. He had difficulty following simple instructions, had very little foundational academic knowledge, and lacked the skills that are critical to collaborative classroom learning. Through feedback from my administrator as part of my classroom observations, targeted lesson planning, and collaboration with the family, I'm happy to say that Kevin is now receiving speech 3 times a week. He loves to listen and answer questions about stories, and his letter recognition has improved over 60%. And we're not done yet. With the investments this committee is making in HB2 in bolstering effective educators and programming, I know that Kevin's remarkable success story can not only be recognized, but replicated. Thank you for investing in us as professionals, creating support to further scale what is working in Texas classrooms, and for allowing me to share my perspective today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lara. Ms. Nolan?
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Buckley, Vice Chair Bernal, and distinguished members of the committee. I'm Darla Nolan, Superintendent of Academy Independent School District, a 3A school district located about 60 miles north of Austin in Central Texas. I'm here today to share our district's experience with the teacher incentive allotment and to express support for the proposed enhancements in the teacher incentive allotment within House Bill 2. In Academy ISD, we share district boundaries with 2 large school districts. If you'll look at page 2 of your handout, you'll note that we decided to pursue TIA to recruit, retain, and reward the best teachers in our area. Using TIA funds, we are now able to compete with these larger school districts whose teacher pay scales are considerably higher than ours. Page 3 simply outlines our program timeline. Looking at page 4 of our designation system evaluates teachers based on 2 key components: the teacher evaluation through T-test evaluation process and student growth. Each of these are weighted 50%. This approach ensures our designations accurately reflect both instructional quality in the classroom and student academic growth. Page 5 of the handout shows Academy ISD star scores for the past 3 years. You'll note instructional improvements by our teachers across grade levels and in all tests. In fact, our 2024 scores beat both the state and Region 12 averages on every assessment. The professional growth that our teachers have achieved through the TIA process is paying big dividends in the classroom. Next, if you'll look at page 6, since making application in 2021-22 for the TIA program, Academy ISD now has a pathway for 100% teacher eligibility in the program. Page 7 shows our first payout to 52 teachers in May of 2024. Page 8 gives the estimated payout amount for our second group of 85 teachers who will receive their checks in May of this year. With teachers at all 3 designation levels, we're not only honoring individual teacher excellence, but also working towards continuous improvement among our teachers. It's that old adage that a rising tide lifts all boats. I understand some districts may feel that TIA is not right for them because the application and data collection processes are cumbersome and time-consuming. However, in Academy ISD, it's worth the heavy lift. By allocating 90% of the TIA funds directly to our teachers, we have enhanced educational outcomes for our students and improved teacher performance and pride in the teaching profession. Of the funds given to our teachers so far, 1 teacher paid for her son's college tuition. Another teacher put a down payment on a house. Another teacher paid for her wedding, and still several other teachers paid for family vacations. The teacher incentive allotment in conjunction with our 4-day instructional week has increased the number of teacher applicants that we receive, the quality and experience of candidates, as well as the retention of staff who are close to retirement or who may have also considered leaving the profession altogether. Please know the oversight, the data collection, validation, calibration, and training that it takes to lead TIA work is high stakes. If the program allotment expands and more school districts qualify, the need for implementation support will also increase, especially in small and mid-sized districts who may not have the leadership staff to implement the program. So I do have one ask for you. Please consider giving additional funding to the Education Service Centers so they can enlarge their TIA support staff. School districts need a thought partner in this process, and for us, that was ESC Region 12. The ESCs can encourage districts to pursue the TIA funds and also provide continuity of services while doing it. In closing, this committee has many tough decisions to make during this legislative session, but increasing funding to the teacher incentive allotment is not one of them. It's a really good decision that will benefit teachers and students across our great state, and for that reason, I support House Bill 2. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Nolan. Mr. Mackey.
Thank you, Chairman Buckley, Vice Chair Bernal, honorable committee members. It's my honor to be here with you today to speak for House Bill 2, specifically the teacher incentive allotment and additional day school year portions of this in Article 1. My name is Ben Mackey. I'm the executive director of the Texas Impact Network. It's a nonprofit joint venture between Educate Texas and the Commit Partnership. And our goal is to help turn what we see as good public policy that has the potential to impact student outcomes into strong implementation across the state, because school systems are often stretched so thin already. And we've had just that opportunity to do this with teacher incentive allotment and the additional day school year ADSE program over these last 5 years. So you have a slideshow, and I'll kind of walk you through some of those slides there. But if you turn to slide 3 on this, it shows the explosive growth of teacher incentive allotment in Texas over the past 5 years. Today, there are 597 school systems with a teacher incentive allotment program either already fully approved or system approved. And when it was created, and the purpose was to really help districts identify our most effective teachers and compensate them more, especially if they teach in higher needs, harder to staff areas like rural schools or schools with higher concentrations of poverty, what we are seeing is it's having those impacts. So if you look at the next slide, the TIA systems in these 597 school systems cover more than 69% of Texas students already. And we have more than 26,000 TIA designated teachers in the states who have drawn down in this last year $290 million. 90% of it goes directly to educator salaries. If you flip to the following slide, you'll actually start to see the numbers of this. So first of all, teacher incentive allotment is a solution that is working for all of Texas, from large urban districts to suburban to small rural districts. In fact, more than half of the districts that are approved are smaller or rural districts that are putting this to use. Second of all, on that, the hypothesis was this is a way to help these harder to staff schools. And what we see is that designated teachers are indeed being staffed at higher poverty campuses than peers. So the average designated teacher teaches at a school that has 75% of students coming from economically disadvantaged backgrounds, compared to the state average of 66%. And then moreover, we are retaining designated teachers at higher rates. So across the school systems, designated teachers are staying at an 8% higher rate than non-designated peers, showing that they are actually staying in the classroom and staying in their districts. And all of those are great, but the entire purpose of that is student outcomes. So if you look at the next slide, a recent study from Texas Tech actually found that school systems that have teacher incentive allotment are actually seeing higher outcomes in English and math than comparable peers. So it's actually showing that this is having real impacts on student outcomes. This is a no-brainer in a lot of ways. 87% of respondents in a recent poll actually support this type of compensation increase for teachers. 3 items I want to call your attention to in here, which I think are really strong policy. The first one is around the grant programs that we just heard spoken about. While there's a lot of districts doing this, there's more districts that could really benefit from additional technical assistance to start the program if they don't have it. But essentially all of the districts can use that technical assistance also to deepen their program and have more teachers become designated that are effective and there. The second part here is around expanding the tiers and adding that 4th tier, which will make approximately our top 50% of teachers eligible for this, which would be a really strong win. And then additionally, the enhanced TIA. There are many districts that pass this through and use it as a bonus, but there's a lot of districts that are thinking about enhanced TIA to say, how do I impact my entire school culture? How do I impact principals, others? How do I think about building this into salary for teachers instead of bonus? And so that's where the enhanced TIA comes in. With the last minute I have, I'll switch to ADSI, because ADSI, like TIA, is showing strong student growth across Texas. So we have 91 districts taking place over approximately 400 campuses that have implemented ADSI in the past year. And this is a program, again, for a school system that has a base calendar of 180 days. They can add up to 30 more days and draw down funding, half-day funding for the state for those students. The goal here was in elementary schools to really try to attack this idea of summer slide, that we see students that go out for summer and they come back behind where they left. And what we are seeing is that it is having an enormous impact. So on the last slide, I believe, you'll actually see the data. When we looked at the data over the past year, students taking part in any type of ADSI significantly outpaced the state, and there was a strong correlation with more days resulting in substantial gains, double-digit gains compared to the state averages. So this is, again, something that is incredibly working in both English and math, and it's especially pronounced in math. So the committee's discussion around the ADSI and some of those changes, like adjusting the base calendar to 175 days, will make this much more accessible for school systems to do this and much more financially feasible. The expansion to middle school, where you see some of the widest gaps proliferate, is really critical, and we thank you and the committee for considering both of these.
Thank you, Mr. Mackey. Members, any questions? Representative Hinojosa.
Chairman, one thing I'd like to get clarity on is parts of this bill say that a district that implements some kind of teacher incentive allotment then can no longer give any kind of across-the-board pay raise to employees except for significant inflation. That's just on page 5 and 6. I'm not understanding if that's
in the enhanced model.
That's the enhanced
Yeah,
model.
where they bring it sort of campus-wide.
Okay, there's another section in the bill that says some version of the TIA, you can't also give certified teachers an increase in pay after so many years. There can't be you can't distinguish in pay versus a certified and non-certified teacher after 5 years, I believe it is. And I'm not sure if that's for the enhanced or that's for all of it now.
Yeah, I believe that's the part in the certification part of the bill, where we talk
Okay.
about those that are like, that have the, that are part of the prep allotment, that they're the
I
highly,
Right.
those that have the high quality ed prep, that after 5 years, you cannot make that distinction, or someone
Okay,
with
so
5
I'm-
years of experience. I think we're combining those two, but I'll make sure that,
Yeah.
that's correct.
So I'm mixing up
Yeah.
different programs here. Okay, I appreciate it. Mr. Mackey, my understanding of Texas Impact Network is it is the group that school districts consult with to figure out how to come up with a teacher incentive allotment plan to submit to the agency so that it can be approved. Is that correct?
So we are not a technical assistance provider. What we are, we have relationships with nonprofit organizations, ESCs all across the state. And it's our goal when we saw, for instance, teacher incentive allotment in 2019 when that was passed, we said that's a really good program. It could make a huge impact, but that's gonna be really hard for districts. And so what we did is we asked all of our contacts and saw what school districts, which ISD says, hey, I'm interested in doing that, but I don't have the time, effort, energy to be able to put to that right now. What we do is we raise philanthropic funds and then help identify technical assistance providers who can work with those districts at no cost to do exactly what you're doing. So a technical assistance provider might work with the district and help them design the TIA system that they want for their district, but that person knows the ins and outs, how to think about data validation and how to set those up.
Oh, okay, so school districts aren't having to pay any money to get consulting to come up with these TIA plans that they're proposing to TEA?
Not through us.
Okay. Oh, wait, but are you connecting them with consultants that they have to pay?
No, not at all.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't stop. I'm sure some districts in the state, I can't speak for every district, some districts might choose to pay some technical assistance, but that is not through us or anyone we connect them with. It is all no cost to the district.
Okay, and I want to ask Superintendent Nolan, I appreciate the success that you've experienced in your school district, and you gave us the numbers. Is that all your teachers, or is that a certain percentage of your teachers that are covered?
Okay, so on the first slide last year where we paid out, that was the money that was paid out. And so then this slide 8 right behind it is the estimated amount that we're anticipating to pay out. Is that what you?
No, what percentage of your teachers are covered and
Oh,
receiving
sorry.
enhanced pay?
So in last year, we would have had 75 teachers that were eligible, and we paid out 52.
And what percentage of your teachers are getting the enhanced TIA pay of all your teachers in your school district?
That's a great question.
I'm just wondering, is it like most, half, 10%, roughly?
Right. The very first year, I'd say half of our teachers. We're on track, of course, this year to improve that number. Very proud. It's been really successful in our district.
That's great. One of the issues that I see here is that in our appropriations, we only have enough to cover about 19% of teachers statewide. So this can't be, according to our budgetary constriction, something that everybody gets, right? Or everybody has even a chance to get, because there's just not the money to cover it. And that's why I was alarmed by this language that said, no increases if you do this. So I'd like to explore that more and how that might work, since there's just so much money we can spend on it.
More questions, Representative, let's go to Representative Schoolcraft, and then we'll go around the horn.
Mr. Chairman, could you just clarify for me the 175 days versus 180 days? Does it have to do with the length of the school day, or what is that?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
What is the distinction between 175 days and 180 days? I mean, I understand you're dropping it down to the requirement. Why do we have two different school day length or number of school days?
I believe that's based upon local decisions on their school year, as long as they meet the minutes required.
Why did, looks like you don't care, but why did we statutorily care whether they did 180 versus 175? I mean, why was it originally limited to 180 days for ADSE?
Before my time.
Okay. One last quick question.
Why don't we get that? Why don't we direct questions to the witnesses? That's why they're here.
If I may, in the discussions, and again, I'm obviously not in the legislature, but paying attention to discussions, there's a lot of research that shows more days through the year increases student outcomes, not necessarily more minutes in a school day. Just like adults, if you work 8, 10, 12 hours, you don't get more productive working 12 hours. It's the same for students. And so I believe when the legislature was considering this in 2019, they were actually trying to incentivize more school days in the year, because that's what shows nationwide students, especially those who are further behind, actually show more growth when they have more days.
Okay, thanks. And the ADSI program, I think I heard say it was half days, 30 additional half days.
They are funded at a half ADA rate, but all the districts that I know of do essentially close to full days for their summer programs.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Leah Wilson.
Ms. Lara, thank you so much for all that you do for our kiddos. That just really was great testimony to hear. And I started my career in early childhood development at George Washington Carver in DISD. So anyway, my questions are directed to either one of you, Ms. Nolan or Mr. Mackey. Did you say, Ms. Nolan, that you were on a 4-day?
Yes, ma'am.
Because we had heard testimony from the commissioner on that very first day that we took testimony from him, that across the state that has really had a negative impact on student outcomes. So do you use the EDC to supplement that, or
Ma'am.
no?
Our school board just adopted the calendar for next year. It'll be our 3rd year on a 4-day instructional week. Now, obviously, there are Fridays that we're there for professional development and meetings, but for the most part, yes, ma'am, we start the year 5 days, and then, of course, when STAR test hits, we have some 5-day weeks. But for the most part, in the STAR scores that are in there showing you, we've had reduced absence rates, we've had reduced discipline rates, we've had improved STAR scores, academic performance, not that STAR is the only, but beginning, middle, and end. We're tracking it very well. It's working out great for our school district.
Okay, and then what do working parents do then in that type of situation?
Okay, so on Fridays, we're the Bumblebees, Academy Bumblebees, so we have B Camp on Fridays that the district takes care of those students. If you look at it on secondary students, you can cut half of your population out because high school and middle school students don't need childcare on Fridays. And then of the remaining students, some of those students still have parents who work remote. And then of the remaining of those students, if they don't have siblings that are secondary students that babysit on Fridays, then we have about 75 kids on the Fridays that we offer B Camp.
And does that camp have an academic component
Yes,
to
ma'am.
it?
Yes, we partner with the Temple Parks and Rec. And they come into one of our buildings, and it's a great partnership. We actually have some of our high school kids. It's their first job. They're working for Temple Parks and Rec, and they are in our building with our students. And yes, ma'am, they have computer lab. Of course, they have gym. They have puzzles and games. They have, if they have homework, it's a really great program.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Representative Cunningham.
Thank you, Chairman Buckley. Mr. Mackey, I'm on page 9 of your handout.
Yes, sir.
And really got about 3 questions to this ADSI. Can you tell me about the experience of teachers on ADSI with an extended school calendar? Could you share that?
Yeah, so I can't speak specifically to any particular district, but what I can tell you at length, all the ADSI programs that I'm aware of, it's opt-in. So they make it available for teachers who want to or have the flexibility to do so. Some choose not to, and others do. So first of all, it's opt-in, and the teachers, they get additional pay for being there for the additional day. So some teachers really want that. I'll tell you one specific example that I just recently heard from Raymondville ISD, which is a small district in South Texas, who was essentially right below their regional and state average a few years ago before they implemented ADSI. And they were really worried about the teacher experience. Will we get enough teachers, et cetera? 5 years later, they're going strong. They have more than half of their elementary school students that sign up, and their student outcomes are above the state and region in their STAR. And they say they have a lot of teachers who want to sign up, honestly, too many for the students there. So I think it's going to depend district by district, but because it is opt-in, it's an opportunity for teachers to earn more funding and oftentimes get to work with the students in a different setting that feels like them from the regular school day. You see a lot of teachers take advantage of that.
Okay, thank you. Really, well, two other questions. How about the difference? Can you explain the difference for the models on the extended calendar?
Yeah,
of
so
ADSE?
thank you for asking that question. It's a great question. Both TIA and ADSE, to what you're speaking about here, have a ton of district flexibility and autonomy in them. So districts can design the ADSE calendar however they want to. So we have some districts doing what probably is the most common is a summer model, where they run their regular school year and then have a summer program for some or all of their students afterwards. Others say, we're gonna extend our school year, and it's gonna feel like a different, we might have, Wednesdays might be a day where we do field trips or whatnot, but then we actually go longer than the 180 days, and that counts as ADSE. Others do what's called intersession, where they will actually have more spring breaks essentially throughout the year, and then they will actually ask certain students, oftentimes those who are further behind might need some more one-on-one small group tutoring, to come in during that week and get additional support. So districts can implement it in a number of ways that make sense for their context.
Okay, well, is there some data that bears to that effectiveness?
So we don't have data on the different models themselves, but what we do have is the data here, which is whatever model you do. If you have more days, what we're seeing on these students in 3rd through 5th grade STAR is significant growth compared to peers. So 2% in non-ADSE compared to between 5 or 17 points, and there is a strong correlation with more days being more growth for those students.
All right, well, thank you. I can say in my district, where we've got 7 school districts, 5 participate to the tune of about 15 million. And my school district, they have that long day off. They've got a week off in October, and then they take Christmas, and then they've got a week off in February, and then they got spring break, and it seems to be working well. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Bryant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mackey,
Yes, sir.
Section 103 of HB2 establishes a system of designating a classroom teacher as a master, exemplary, recognized, or acknowledged teacher for a 5-year period based on an assessment process. And it goes on to say that the commissioner's going to provide guidance for designated and enhanced teacher incentive allotment. And the bill on further down says that it will be necessary to ensure that substantially all classroom teachers, regardless of grade level, et cetera, are eligible to earn a designation under subsection A. What does that mean, substantially all?
Yeah, so the way that it's set up, and again, you have 597 different school systems implementing in different ways, but one of the components is that you've got to find a way to understand, are students growing? It doesn't have to be STAR, it can be, but it could be any number of measures that a district creates. And so for some segments of teachers, think core subjects, we have consistent assessments that districts can just plug and play and look at and understand, are students growing or not on STAR or on TSI or on my local final that I've decided to put in place. Then there is a number of other teacher categories that require a lot more work, and there's not as much consistency there. So think about CTE or self-contained special education, the very early learning grades, et cetera. There's not a standardized measure, and that's okay. What this expansion is doing is actually allowing it and making it easier for school systems to identify the effective teachers in those areas to make sure that they have access to the teacher incentive allotment as well as effective teachers.
So you think it should not say that all classroom teachers are eligible?
I think
It should say there should be less than all somehow.
I think in an ideal world, we should be aiming for all. Every teacher that I've met in a system that, because the schools will stand these up, they might start with a subset of their teachers or a subset of their schools. The most common question I get from teachers is, what about me? I do great things in my classroom, and how do I reward that also?
Yeah. Another question, this will not apply to any school district that has an across-the-board salary increase for instructional staff. And so does that mean that the only way a teacher in this category could improve their pay is by getting redesignated every 5 years?
I believe the provision you're referring to is the enhanced TIA
Yes,
segment of that.
It's part of that provision.
So enhanced TIA is a lot of things, and again, it can look different, but it's really about thinking about our entire compensation system in terms of a new way. So not the most common way right now is if a teacher is designated, we pass money through to that teacher, which is great. But then you've got a whole lot of other teachers who are growing, improving, but they might not be at that designated level yet. So what this is doing is saying, as a school system thinks about this enhanced TIA, how am I building a system that recognizes the growth of all teachers and gets them funding, not just the ones who are at that threshold for being designated? And so what I believe that's referring to is in the compensation system, it's about building a compensation system that recognizes student growth across all teacher categories, et cetera. And if you're doing an across-the-board increase as your standard, I think this might be different than a cost of living adjustment, which I believe is still permitted in there. But this is saying an enhanced TIA, you need to be looking at how students are being grown across all your teachers, not just the designated teachers.
Well, I understand, but it does, would allow for a cost of living adjustment as I interpret at the present time. But I'm talking about if you're in the category of enhanced teacher and you've been designated, now you have a 5-year period there.
I see what you're saying.
You would not be, it appears you would not be able to get an increase in salary if it was an across-the-board increase that applied to everybody, for example, for longevity.
Right, but so I see your question now. When systems are designing these enhanced TIA systems, they are setting different thresholds in different categories with different pay associated with them. Teachers can still move up and through those. Like in Dallas ISD, for example, I'll speak to, a teacher might be a brand new teacher if you can't be a proficient 1 teacher until you've been in the classroom at least 3 years. But if a teacher who's in year 2 of their pay, and they can't be a proficient 1 teacher yet because they're still a young teacher, but they knock it out of the park and somehow they get huge student growth and they are exemplary, they are still able to gradate up to that over time and earn what's in their system. So I believe the way the bill is written is teachers can receive increases. It's just the purpose of the enhanced TIA system is to understand student growth and not just say everybody is getting the same increase each time, is how I understand that.
I think that I understand what you're advocating. I think perhaps the language of the bill needs to be modified to accommodate what you're saying right there. Now, your organization, I guess, focuses a great deal on teacher compensation. Is that right?
It is one of our areas, but not our only area.
Okay. And I'm assuming that you know, or I'm hoping that maybe you guys have some data that says what factors ought to go into determining what that compensation should be in any given area. Is that correct?
So what we do is we focus on bill implementation, not necessarily the setting of the policy or the research of the policy. When the legislative body put forth TIA, what we do is say, okay, if the hypothesis and the research shows that we think this will work on student outcomes, it's only going to be as good as how it's implemented. So we focus on helping districts implement that work so we can learn, is it having the impact we're seeing or not, and what can we learn from it? We don't do a lot of what should it be instead. All I can say here is what we're seeing is that it's working and having impacts.
So you're with Texas Impact Network, right?
Correct.
But your material says commit over here, commit partnership, and over here educate Texas. I'm not sure. I know what committee is, but I'm not sure what that is. Aren't they involved in an across-the-board assessment of what ought to happen to make the schools better?
So the Commit Partnership and Educate Texas are both 2 separate nonprofit entities that have their own policy arms and do their own policy and advocacy and understanding what that should be. They actually formed together to create this joint venture, Texas Impact Network, to do the implementation side of it. Once the policy gets passed, we help districts actually implement it and help try to remove barriers so we learn from them. So yeah, they might have a lot of specific suggestions on those, what should teacher evaluation be and whatnot. But I can't speak for each of
So
those
you're
organizations.
sort of agnostic when it comes to everything except implementation, right?
We're on the implementation and what we've learned from it and what we're seeing work.
Okay, but you're here to advocate policy because that's what HB2 is,
Yes, sir.
right? Isn't that a conflict? Aren't you in conflict there?
No.
You're only for implementation, not policy, but HB2 is policy.
Right, and we're sharing what has worked with the teacher incentive allotment and the additional day school year programs and what we've learned from the field, what principals, superintendents, and teachers have told us about what works and what doesn't work. And so we're here advocating for those improvements and changes like the grant program for TIA. We've seen that districts need technical assistance to stand it up. And that's why we think that is such a strong policy element in here. But I can't say that I've gone back and we're thinking about creating whole new systems or a whole new what teacher evaluation should be. We'll leave that for the researchers.
Yes, Representative Hinojosa.
Mr. Mackey, I asked you a bit ago if your members
You see my light?
or if vendors profited off advising school districts on creating TIA plans, and you said no, correct?
I believe the question you asked is, do school districts pay for,
Right.
do they pay vendors?
Okay,
In which case it is not. We will pay the vendors on their behalf so they can just get the services at no cost.
okay, I see. But your members make money. The members of your network make money off of
No,
this.
I see the confusion. No, our members, our Texas Impact Network is a loose relationship between all of these nonprofit organizations that work with school districts around the states. Those like E3 Alliance or Up Partnership or ESCs that have relationships with school systems. And what we do is when we see this bill, so TIA, when it first got passed, we knew that was going to be a big lift on school districts, especially smaller districts that don't have a huge data department that they can do all this with. So what we do is we raise philanthropic funding and we find technical assistance vendors who we think can really help school districts and might have an expertise in rural or otherwise. And if we have a district that says, hey, I'd really like to do TIA, how can I get some help doing that? We will go and help match them with a technical assistance provider, and we will pay the advisor. So that district doesn't have to come out of pocket for anything. They get the support at absolutely no cost to us. But our network is of this loose network of school systems and nonprofit entities who help tell us what's happening in different regions and which districts might want to do this work but not have that support.
Okay, so it's free to the districts. The partners do make money off of it, but that money is coming off of.
We will
going back.
philanthropically fundraise for anyone that we pay to get the support.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Allen.
Thank you. I love teachers,
Thank you.
and you sound like a great one.
Thank you very much.
Teachers always come and talk to us about what they're doing and how they make things happen with nothing, but you never ask for anything. So if you had a magic wand and you wanted to, and you could get anything you wanted, what would you wish for?
As a pre-K teacher,
As a pre-K teacher who deals with the babies when they come, yes.
I would.
Wave your magic wand. Ask for something.
Thank you. I would love to have access to resources that included manipulatives, puppets, anything that could grab my students' attention so that I could teach them so they could be successful in whatever TEAC or LO learning objective I'm trying to get through to them. And as pre-K students, if I have a puppet in my hand and they're teaching the letter of the day and the sound, that really gets their attention. So I would love to have manipulatives for every theme that I teach.
And how do you get it now?
Most of the time I buy it.
Oh,
My garage is full of
You have to
things for my
buy it.
students. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to bring it home, okay?
Thank you.
Because that's what people need. And what would you like to see?
That's such a great answer. Just supports for
Nolan.
our teacher. Yes, ma'am. Supports for our teachers, whether
Support.
it's additional instructional aids in the classroom or whether it's technology, infrastructure, safety and security, just all of the things, a clean building, custodians, and bus drivers that get our kids to and from school. You said wave a magic wand, so I'm not just asking for manipulatives, but
There you go.
yeah,
Come on with it,
yes, ma'am.
because if you don't ask for it, you don't get it,
Yes, ma'am.
okay? What you want, what do you want?
Oh, wow. Targeted investment in what works. I know there's a conversation about NAEP scores before, and when we looked at the analysis of NAEP scores around the nation, there is really not a correlation and an overlap between more spending or increase in spending and outcomes. What there is a correlation with is identifying something that works. There's a bunch of different strategies or a bunch of different ways to do them, but when you know something and see something that's working, to put funding behind it to continue to move it is incredibly helpful.
See, you may get something if you ask for it, okay? And I know how wonderful you are. Having been a school principal and a teacher for 14 years and assistant principal for 1, adjunct professor, I know what you deal with, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
So remember that. Brag on, but ask what you want, okay?
Representative Leo Wilson.
This was for you, Mr. Chairman. I thought I heard you say that in the TIA money that's contained in HB2, that part of that is reserved to go to technical support to get districts that aren't on it. So address that, and then does any of that go, I think it was you, Ms. Nolan, that mentioned it needs to go to the some region service centers, or I can't remember which one of you mentioned that. But is that how it will flow, is through those region service centers, or no?
That's typically how the bill is written. So
Okay.
there's more supports for districts. When you go around, especially you talk to small districts, it's a daunting task sometimes to implement teacher incentive allotment. And so we want to make sure that they have those supports to understand that they can do that as well. Another great thing at, I believe it's TASB this year, Academy ISD did a presentation on how they implemented TIA, and it was a packed house of all kinds of districts, but specifically those that were smaller in nature, to kind of learn best practices from somebody that's been there, done that. But yeah, we do that in the bill to
Okay,
make sure
so that's where
there are
that
those
technical
supports.
piece will go, is if they
Yes.
need support, they'll go to their
Absolutely.
region service center. Okay.
All right. Any more questions? Real quickly, Ms. Nolan, first of all, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
Just proud to represent you and your district. You are an amazing shooter of a confetti cannon when the district handed out an incredible, impactful bonus, if you will, to teachers throughout. So how many teachers are there in the academy total?
There's 119 that are currently eligible for the TIA program.
Okay, and I believe 55 is what you said?
52, yes, sir.
52 were
Yes, sir.
those that, okay.
We're on track this year
Yeah.
to qualify 85 of
Yeah.
those.
Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
one of the things that we talk about sometimes is districts will start with tested subjects.
Yes, sir.
Because there's a built-in metric,
Mm-hmm.
something you can measure. And then it gets harder as you expand it out.
Yes.
Not that those jobs aren't any less important, it's that there may not be an easily accessible norm referenced test or whatever that you need to measure the outcomes, right? And so the enhanced version, it sort of speaks to that in a general way. But one of the things I hear, and I've heard this all over the state when I visit, one of the reluctance that some districts have is, I don't want to inject any competition into my system because that's not how education works. Can you speak to sort of the campus culture in Academy after the implementation of teacher incentive allotment and what you've seen from that?
So we have not experienced a competition or a sense of competing against each other. It's more been a collaborative effort that if we're all planning together and trying to find ways to successfully teach and implement the TEKS, what your strengths are, I can borrow and use those. I can improve. It's that Jim Collins going good to great. And so working towards, we've got silos of really good things happening, but what are we doing across all campuses to ensure that great things are happening in the classrooms. And so it's not been seen as a competition. If anything, teachers will speak to that intrinsic motivation that I want to do as good of a job as I can for all of my students. And so that's not the feeling that we've had on our campus. In fact, it's quite the opposite.
Okay. Well, we're proud of what you do there, and the implementation was Herculean, but you did such a great job, and to see the faces of the teachers that have
Makes
worked
it
so
all worth
hard,
it.
and just everybody was proud of everyone,
Yes, sir.
regardless of whether or not they participated in it,
Exactly.
and that's great. Miss Lara?
Yes, sir.
I got a 4-year-old grandson, and I wish I could send him your way. That is, such important work that you do, with that age. If we want to pour great things into kids, we need to be doing it right there at that time. Tell me a little bit more and inform this committee about this partnership and how that works. So Dallas ISD curriculum, Dallas ISD instructors located in a private setting, is that correct?
That is correct.
And who are the students? Who are the families that come that are your students?
They come from everywhere. They come from all over the area. Some of my families drive 30 minutes away just to get there, because not only do they have a preschooler, but they have an infant as well. So Head Start can accommodate both their children at the same time. They can take the infant over into the infant side, as well as have a great education for their preschooler. And now they're a DISD student. So they have access to iPads. Each one of them have an iPad. They get the resources they're needed. They have a student ID. They have speech if they need it. So it's a great partnership.
So it really impacts families.
It
So a working
does.
family that has the baby and
That's right.
and has a pre-K age student, they can that's kind of a one stop.
That's right.
Well, that's really impressive. Your testimony was really unbelievable, and not
Thank
only
you.
your testimony on pre-K partnerships, but teacher incentive allotment. You are what we who we need in public education, early childhood space. So
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
being here. I know it's a long way down here.
Thanks for inviting me.
Appreciate it. Members, any more questions for this panel? All right. We thank y'all for being here.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, members, we'll begin panel number 5. We do have to stop in about an hour from now.